Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Welcome student. Today I am going to have your Principles of Management subject of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. Today I am going to teach Block 2 Unit 3, that is staffing. In earlier video sessions I have given lecture on planning and decision making, which was the first unit of Block 2. Next I have taken directing, next I have taken organizing, and I discussed various organization structure, and today I am going to discuss the third unit of Block 2, that is staffing. So, the learning objective of this unit are as follows: to understand the meaning, importance and steps involved in staffing process. Next objective is to gain insight into following processes, and these are the processes are the part of staffing function. What are these objectives? To gain insight into manpower planning process, to gain insight into selection and recruitment process, to understand orientation and placement process in the organization, to understand or gain insight into remuneration process in the organization. Next, to gain insight into performance appraisal process in the organization, and next to that to gain insight into promotion and transfer which happens in the organization. So, these are the objectives of this video session. In this session, I am going to cover up to the selection and recruitment process and end with the orientation and placement, and the latter half of this portion will be covered in next video session. So, just begin with the staffing process. Staffing, as the word comes in the mind, generally student correlate it with the hiring or recruitment. But dear student, it is something else, or it is more than just hiring and recruitment. It envisages various kind of processes. As I mentioned in the objective, we are going to have insight into manpower planning, into selection, into training, into promotion and orientation and placement, and these all function or the processes which I mentioned in the objective are the part of staffing function. So, ultimately hiring and recruiting is not only cogitate with the staffing, but it is something more than this, like promotion and transfer, having giving training to your employees, performance appraisal and many more things. I will give a brief of each and every process in the session later on. Just first highlight what is exactly staffing. So, staffing should not be confused with the hiring and recruiting. Next, according to Theo Hammond, staffing pertains to recruitment, selection, development, compensation of subordinates. As friends, I mentioned, it is something more than just hiring and recruiting. So, what else is this? It is development also, it is bothering about the compensation also. So, Theo Hammond incorporated these two terms more in the definition, and broadly whatever I mentioned earlier in the objectives are the ingredients of this staffing process. Now, let me discuss the importance of staffing. What exactly staffing does? Exactly, staffing, the meaning of staffing is placing a right person on a right job. So, as the result of staffing, there are many benefits in the organization, like it is a key to another managerial functions. Earlier we have studied planning and organizing. In planning, plans have been decided in advance, and in organizing we just decide upon various kind of activities which is have to accomplish in order to achieve those plans. And we also discuss that a particular structure need to be defined in the organization in order to implement those plans. Now, these two functions remain then and there without any staff in the organization. If we are having manpower, then only it is possible to plan in advance, then it is possible to carry out activities, then only it is possible to control the activities. So, other managerial functions like planning, like organizing and controlling remain then and there without staffing function. So, it is a key to other managerial function. Next importance in the line is building healthy human relationship. I mentioned earlier in a staffing process, the manager also bother about the remuneration, the bonuses, salaries, and also he also bother about what kind of activities is given to a particular candidate. If the activities are in the interest of a person, then he will do work in better manner and he will be happy by their manager. In this manner, if a person or one subordinate remain happy in the organization, it will create a congenial environment within the organization. That's why it is said that it builds healthy human relationship in the organization. Now, move to next importance in the sequence, which is it causes it or it helps in human resource development. This particular importance relate the staffing function to the training and development process. Exactly when you place a person in the organization, some kind of trainings are provided just to make them aware that what kind of culture any organization has. Sometimes this kind of development can also be done in the form of on the job training and off the job training. People or subordinates get required skills or knowledge while they get such kind of training. By getting such training, they develop themselves in the organization. That's why it is said that staffing leads to human resource development. The importance of staffing lies in the development of human resources. Now, move to next importance in the sequence. Staffing causes long-term effect. It causes long-term effects. As I mentioned, staffing means placing a right person on a right job. So, it means management assess the skills and capabilities or knowledge of a candidate prior he is placing on the job. If they fit the suitable person on the job, it will return them later on in the future because they will work efficiently and effectively on that particular job positions. That's why it is said that staffing causes long-term effect. Now, move to next importance in the sequence, which is staffing have or do potential contribution in facing challenges. Like it helps, the staffing helps in facing challenges. Via facing challenges, it made a major contribution in the organization. This particular point can be understood with this thing that as we know there are various kind of changes in the organization. Like sometimes it may happen that organization may have some expansion plans, or it may happen that they are starting a new department in the organization. So, for these kind of things they require particular set of skills and knowledge, and to acquire certain skills and knowledge from the market is also a kind of challenge in front of a manager. So, just to cope up these kind of changes, staffing helps them just to place right kind of candidate on a right job. In other ways, if any changes happens in the legal environment also, like one example I can have here, like when GST applied in the market, there are certain changes in the rules and regulations. So just to cope up these changes, various kind of organization face a challenge that to hire a competent CA in their organization who can make them aware regarding the latest implication of that GST procedure implemented by the government. In this manner, staffing helped to cope up such kind of challenges in the organization. So this was all about the importance of the staffing. Now, understand the staffing process, various kind of processes. As I mentioned in the objective, I will give a brief of each process here, and later on this processes will be elaborated in the later session of this video. Now, staffing process begin with the manpower planning. So, manpower planning is the assessment of right number of vacancies in the organization. Next, it is also then move to recruitment. Recruitment is the inviting application from the market for the suitable candidates in the organization, or it is the collection of a pool of suitable candidates in the organization. Advertisements are released for recruitment. Later on I will discuss recruitment process in detail. Now move to selection. Selection is the screening out a suitable candidate among the pool of candidates who suits to your job profile. So this is something selection. Orientation and placement. Orientation means the induction program, making any employee familiar with the working culture of your organization. And placement, it is fitting one employee to that particular job, or placing a person to that particular job is called as placement. When a person is selected, he is definitely going to fit it in the organization, and orientation or induction, some kind of training, initial training are given to that person. So this was about these 4 processes under the staffing. It is a very broad process. Staffing is a very broad process. Under this process, several other processes are carried on ongoing basis in the organization. Now move to next processes within it, that is training and development. I have explained earlier too that how on the job training and off the job training helps to acquire new skills or new set of knowledge for a candidate. So training and development will be discussed in detail in later portion of this lecture. Now move to next is remuneration. So remuneration is the paying reward for their work. Paying reward for their subordinates' working efforts is termed as remuneration. The next is performance evaluation. Performance evaluation is the assessment of the performance of any candidate or any employee in the organization to what was expected or what tasks were given initially to him. So evaluation is done based on some standard tasks are given and what he is performing. So a manager evaluate that is there any gap in the performance. So based on that, certain bonuses or salary increment or promotions are given as a result of performance evaluation. This process will also be discussed later on in the session. Next is promotion and transfer. Promotion is something shifting or switching the job classification of a person. It is something promoted, when you are shifting a person from one job to another, and there is a pay hike, there is an increase in the job assignments and etc., will be termed as a promotion. While in the transfer, there is no salary hike, and although there is increase in the job responsibility. So this was something brief about each and every process under the domain of staffing process. Now let me discuss the first step, that is manpower planning. Manpower planning. So this is the beginning, in which it is also termed as human resource planning. This manpower planning is termed as human resource planning, and in manpower planning it is a process of estimating the optimum number of people required for completing a project, task or a goal within a time. So what exactly this says, that if you are having limited period of time, if you are having certain goals in advance in hand, so this particular process estimate that what exactly number of people will require to finish this task or will require to achieve that particular goal. So manpower planning is to find out the optimum number of people to accomplish certain task in the organization or to achieve certain goals in the organization. This manpower planning, that is human resource planning, includes parameters like number of personnel, which I mentioned earlier, but something more than this, it also assesses that different types of skills required by the personals or like the prospective employees in the organization, and it also helps like the identifying where exactly the vacancy lies and at what point of time it lies. So basically manpower planning generally just may help in estimating the right number of people with right set of skills and knowledge and at a particular time, that is right time and at right place, means in which department particularly a vacancy is there. So this is particularly about the definitional part of manpower planning. Now let me elaborate the particular manpower planning in the process term. So there are various steps in manpower planning. We will have glimpses of each process one by one. Manpower planning begins with the analyzing the current manpower inventory. Here inventory terminology means the number of people, and the current manpower inventory means what number of people exactly we are having in the organization, and whatever people we are having, what kind of capabilities they are having, skill, what kind of knowledge they are having. So this kind of assessment is done in the beginning of the manpower planning, that is the first step. So it is analyzing current manpower inventory, the what exactly number of people we are having, with what kind of skills they are having, what kind of knowledge they are having. In the second step, it is mentioned that it is about making future manpower forecast. So future manpower forecast. So this is something, a process where work to be done, that what kind of people we will be requiring in the future. So there is certain estimation. So for this purpose, the knowledge of external environment is also, it must also have the external environment knowledge, like the manager here, the authority who is going to have decision or who is going to take the HR planning, generally forecast the manpower of future need. Like it may happen that there may be expansion plan. So if a company is having expansion plan, so definitely there are going to be demand of employees for that organization. So in this manner, if future manpower forecast is done in advance, so the organization come to know in advance that what exactly number of people we are requiring or what kind of set of skills we need. exactly if different department is opening, like engineering department, so this engineering department requires different set of engineers. That's why it is said that making future manpower forecast. It can be done by the expert opinion, by the trend analysis and various other forecast methods. And generally this kind of process is done by HR manager in the organization. Now move to the third step, which is developing the employment programs. Here the employment programs means the process of selection and recruitment, or I should say recruitment and selection, through which mean you are employing the people in your organization will be termed as employment program. So here, as you come to know that this is the current state of manpower in our organization and this is the future manpower requirement, so you can assess the gap. So this much number of vacancy should prevail in my organization, and according to that, that particular manager may release the advertisement for the vacancy, and they do the selection also for the same. So in this manner, in manpower planning, something that developing the employment program means you are going to create a program for recruitment and selection, that in this timeline the selection will be done, in this timeline recruitment process will be over. So first recruitment process will be over, later on selection process will be done. Fine. Now move to the last step of manpower planning. In this manpower planning, this designing a training program. It is generally stated that when you draft a proposal that this number of people we are going to select, then in this process it is also designed that how you are going to go for orientation program or induction program, or this is a kind of a training program. So here in designing training program, it says that what kind of particular skills here arise, so you are going to give training to these kind of people through particular training program. So this is generally planned out earlier, later on it is done, but earlier it is planned out in a manpower planning process. Now move to next process of staffing, that is recruitment. Earlier I mentioned it is all about the creating a pool of candidates who are suitable for your job. So in this recruitment, according to Del Yodler, he has given the definition in 1972, he defined recruitment that it is a process to discover sources of manpower to meet the requirement of a staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selection of an efficient working force. So somewhere here in the Dale Yodler definition, it is mentioned that you are going to attract the manpower, and in order to facilitate effective selection, if you release your advertisement in a better manner to the person, or the person who, like for example, I can explain this thing with one example. If you require some technical expert, so you will release your advertisement in Times of India, and wherever you can find the suitable candidate for that particular job. So in this manner, attracting the suitable candidate for the job is the purpose of recruitment, and also it facilitate later on the selection process, because if you have good number of people through the recruitment process, then your selection process will finish within a time limit or within a shorter period of time, and the output of selection will be better if you have good recruitment output. Fine. So this was all about the process of recruitment, which is about the attracting the manpower in adequate number to facilitate effective selection. Suppose if you get less number of application at your in your organization, So how would you feel, or how a manager will feel? So definitely the process going to be effective when you get adequate number of application. Now move to the various characteristics of recruitment. So recruitment is a continuous process in the organization. It is not a one-time process, it is a continuous process. As the organization expand, the requirement of people also arises ongoing basis. So in this manner, it is a continuous process. Similarly, in this point, I also want to add, if sudden changes arises in outer environment, then also a need of recruitment arises in the organization. Now move to second point, that is, it is a linking activity for employer and prospective employees. So definitely when you are releasing any advertisement in newspaper, so people come to know that this is the vacancy in particular organization. So in that manner, employer and prospective employees are going to link through your recruitment process. You are sending a proposal that you just drop your application for this particular job. Now it is all pervasive function. Recruitment prevails at all managerial level, because at all managerial level there are people who of different set of knowledge and skills, and with the passes of time you require various kind of people at those particular level, because some people live in the on the mid of the job, so you require another person to fill that job. That's why it is pervasive function, it prevails at all managerial level. Another characteristic of recruitment, it identify human resource and fulfill human need in organization. So I think I have discussed this particular point earlier too, that to just find the optimal or adequate number of particular people through the manpower planning, and exactly it fulfill the human need of organization. So what we have planned through the manpower planning and recruitment facilitate to catch those number of candidates to your organization. Now move to the next point. It remains dependent on job analysis, job description and job specification. These are the terminology which tells that when you are releasing the advertisement in the newspaper, you need to mention what exactly the job is and what kind of skills or competencies a particular candidate must have to occupy this particular job. So that's why it is said that it depends on the job analysis. Now this is something the recruitment process. So let me have a quick view on the process. It is about the identifying vacancies. So through the manpower planning, in the first two step I mentioned that what existing number of people we are having and what is forecasted, the gap of those two particular step assessment will be the creation of vacancy. So first you identify vacancy, what exactly number of people you require, to what set of skills you require. So it is regarding the identifying vacancy. The next is prepare job description and person's specification. I mentioned in earlier slide that you need to know that what kind of job it is and what kind of person are going to do this particular job. So what kind of skills they must have in order to fulfill this particular job. Next is step in the sequence is advertise vacancy. After identifying vacancy and identifying the job and what kind of skill set required, it needs to advertise vacancy. So you need to see that what kind of newspaper or whether you should go recruitment in campus interview through, or you can just go for advertise the vacancy in newspaper, or you may go through campus placement, like releasing the vacancy in the institution or various campuses. Like next to manage response, whatever application you are getting in first hand, you need to manage these responses. Like the unsuitable candidate you need to screen out in initial level, and suitable candidate you need to keep within the pool you are creating. Now, when you are managing the responses, it is something shortlisting of candidates. So, these two steps are just correlate with each other, which is the screening part of the recruitment process. Now, next is you just go when you feel that the optimum number of candidates or the pool is sufficient that we can get suitable candidate from this particular pool, then you just go for arranging interviews. Fine. The next is step conduct interview and decision making analysis activities. So, this is something the last part of interviews, which is generally a part of selection process. So, generally although I have written here at the last step, but it is a part of selection process in which you conduct the interview and select the candidate finally for your job. So, to sum up this particular session, I have discussed the staffing process. I defined it that how a particular organization select a suitable candidate for a particular job. I mentioned why the staffing is important. I mentioned all the processes within the staffing function, and next I discussed manpower planning, its importance, and what is the process of manpower planning. Next to that, I discussed recruitment process. In that, I mentioned why it is essential to do the recruitment process, how it is done, what is the importance of recruitment process. So, this was all about the block 2 unit 3 staffing. A bit of portion is left in this unit which will be covered in next video session. Thank you.